From spoiling the news before the parents can, to unannounced visits, to outdated newborn sleep habits, the line between helpful and overwhelming is incredibly thin. We are counting down the vital ways to navigate your new role smoothly. Stick around for the silent boundary rule that secretly tests your respect for the new parents. The news isn't yours to share, and the name isn't yours to judge. Tip 1. Let the parents announce the pregnancy you just found out. You're going to be a grandparent. The impulse to call every single person you've ever met is completely understandable. But stop right there, because this is a mistake that can shatter trust right at the starting line of your new role. Make sure the parents-to-be are ready to spread the news before you tell anyone else. Sometimes they have reasons for not wanting the world to know too soon. Concern for the progress of a first pregnancy or job-related issues. Think about what that really means. Early pregnancy carries real risks. Miscarriage is far more common in the first trimester than most people talk about openly. A couple may be quietly holding their breath, waiting for a heartbeat confirmation, a clear scan, or a conversation they haven't had with a boss yet. They told you because they trust you. They didn't hand you a microphone. One woman came from an upbringing where it was considered bad luck to talk about the pregnancy before 3 months. But her husband couldn't wait to tell his mother, who then immediately started comparing grandparenting notes with the son's in-laws. Too bad their daughter hadn't told them yet. That one impulsive conversation created a wave of awkwardness, hurt feelings, and a sense of violation at what should have been a purely joyous time. The birth announcement is probably your very first exchange as a new grandparent, and it's a good time to establish that you will respect their wishes where your grandchild is concerned. Think of it as the very first test of the role you're stepping into. Not a parent, not a decision maker, a supporter. And supporters hold the line. So here's the practical move. When the news lands, express your joy, celebrate the moment with the couple, and then quietly ask them when and how they plan to share it more widely. Take their lead completely, and don't drop hints. Don't post cryptic feeling blessed messages online. Don't pull anyone aside at family dinner. And give a knowing look. Just hold it. Tip 2. Don't react to the baby's name. This is one that people don't prepare for, and it catches grandparents off guard more than almost anything else. The parents reveal the name. Maybe it's unusual. Maybe it's a name you'd never choose in a million years. Maybe it carries no family history and breaks a tradition you quietly expected to be honored. Your face is going to want to react. Your mouth is going to want to open. Don't let it. A name can be a memory of someone who has passed. Honor someone still living. Carry on a family name, or carry a hope or aspiration for the child. There can be a lot of pressure that goes into naming a child. So the right play for grandparents is to simply be supportive of what their adult children are leaning toward. Here's what most grandparents don't realize. By the time parents reveal the name to you, the decision is done. It isn't a draft they're workshopping. It isn't an invitation for feedback. Your opinion at this stage accomplishes nothing positive and risks a lot of damage. This generation's choices are different from yours. The names that feel strange or unconventional to you will feel perfectly normal to your grandchild's generation, because that's the generation this child is being born into. What sounds odd to a 60-year-old frequently sounds fresh and distinctive to a 30-year-old. That's not wrong, it's generational. The worst thing you can do is laugh, or gasp, or wrinkle your nose, or say something like, "Oh, that's interesting." Even if you recover quickly, parents remember those moments. They remember them for years. They talk about them with their friends. And they start to form a picture of you as someone who can't support their choices without editorializing. That picture affects how much access you get. So smile, say the name out loud warmly, and move on. Tip 3. Respect the parenting choices, even when they're different from yours. This is the big one. This is the tip that, if you get wrong, can fracture your relationship with your adult child in ways that take years to repair, if they repair at all. One of the most essential things every new grandparent should remember is to honor their adult children's parenting choices. Every generation brings its own unique approach to raising children. And today's parents may follow methods that are different from what you used. This isn't just a matter of personal style. Parenting research has genuinely evolved. Feeding philosophies, sleep training approaches, discipline methods, screen time limits, all of it looks different now, and there are real reasons why. From feeding routines to screen time limits to sleep schedules, today's parents have their own set of preferences. While it's natural to want to offer advice, the key is to honor their decisions. Avoid openly questioning or suggesting alternatives, even if you're unsure. Instead, focus on offering encouragement and support. Think about what it looks like from the other side. Your adult child has just become a parent for the first time. They're feeling insecure to begin with. They're only too aware of their failings and weaknesses. They don't need you to point them out, but they do need reassurance that they're doing a good job and support for making difficult decisions. When you question their choices, even gently, even with the best intentions, what they often hear is, "I don't trust you." And once that seed is planted, it grows. They start second-guessing themselves more. They start resenting you. They start limiting your visits, your access, your phone calls, because every interaction feels like a performance review. If you chip away at their confidence, it will be construed as interfering and you'll lose their trust. It takes one small step to destroy that trust, and it's a mountain almost too high to climb to regain it. The alternative isn't silence on everything forever. It's timing, tone, and being asked. Your experience as a parent is invaluable, but sharing it without being asked can feel intrusive. If you're tempted to offer suggestions, pause and consider whether your advice aligns with their parenting philosophy. The most supportive gesture is often just being there, listening, or affirming their decisions. Tip 4. Only offer advice when asked. This tip is the practical application of the mindset in Tip 3. It sounds simple. It is deceptively hard. The role of first-time grandparent can feel like a major role shift. You're now a supporter, not a parent. While it may be tempting to offer unsolicited advice or to impose your own parenting style, this typically doesn't end well and leads to conflict. Instead, respect your child's rules, learning process, and decisions, and only offer guidance when they ask for it. This shows that you trust them as parents and helps you avoid tension in your relationship. There's a vivid way to think about this. Think about the difference between a deep well and a fire hydrant. The best grandparents are deep wells, places where new parents can constantly draw good water of experience and sound advice when they choose to. They don't get sprayed by a fire hydrant, and that keeps them coming back for assistance. The fire hydrant grandparent means well, but every conversation is a torrent of suggestions, corrections, and comparisons to how things were done before. It's exhausting, it's demoralizing, and it sends new parents running in the other direction because they can't turn it off. The deep well grandparent is the one who waits, who listens, who, when asked, draws from decades of experience and offers something measured and genuinely helpful. And because they don't spray advice constantly, when they do speak, it lands. It matters. It's taken seriously. One experienced grandparent put it simply, "In the long run, I have found it wise only to offer advice when asked for it. So I start out by telling new parents that I shall be very willing to hear their concerns, but will only give advice if I am asked for it." That isn't weakness or irrelevance. That's the wisdom of someone who understands what the role actually is. Safety first. What's changed since you were a parent? Tip 5. Learn the new safe sleep rules. They are non-negotiable. Here is where things get serious. Not emotionally serious, life and death serious. The most critical change in baby health and safety guidelines over the years relates to sleeping position. Historically, babies were put on their stomachs to sleep, but research confirmed that putting babies to sleep on their backs could lower the risk of suffocation and sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS. Public health campaigns like Back to Sleep, now called Safe to Sleep, have successfully led to a dramatic reduction in SIDS rates by more than 50% since the 1990s. That is not a small number. That is half. That is tens of thousands of babies. And the change that drove that reduction was in large part simply the sleeping position. So when grandparents put a baby down on their stomach, because that's how we always did it, They're not just doing something old-fashioned. They are introducing a risk that science has spent decades working to eliminate. The core rule is the ABCs. Babies should sleep alone, on their back, and in a crib. Room sharing but not bed sharing is recommended for at least the first 6 months to reduce SIDS risk. To prevent suffocation and entrapment, the crib must be completely empty. No loose bedding, pillows, bumper pads, or stuffed toys. Only a firm mattress and a tight-fitting sheet. This might feel cold or sparse. Grandma might instinctively want to tuck the baby in with a soft blanket because they look cozy, wishing for safety, but caught between the grandparents' habits and the pediatrician's strict advice. The solution isn't debate. It's a sleep sack. Instead of loose blankets, a wearable sleep sack provides coziness without the risk of covering the baby's face or restricting breathing. And car seats. Here's one more that catches grandparents off guard. When a baby wears a fluffy coat, in the car seat straps have to be lengthened to fit over the coat. In an accident, the coat compresses, and there's more room for the body to move, which increases the impact. Instead, keep babies warm, using blankets placed on top of the secured harness, preheating the car, or placing the coat on backward, on top of the harness. Tip 6. Know the food safety updates. The food rules have changed too, and this one catches people off guard, because honey seems so harmless, so natural. Honey may contain a bacteria that can be harmful to babies when their gut is immature. In the first 12 months, avoid offering babies honey or any products that contain honey. That includes things you might not think of. Certain crackers, baked goods, granola bars, and cereals that list honey as an ingredient. Always check the label before offering babies any baked goods or snack products. After the baby turns 1, it's widely considered safe because their gut has matured enough to handle the bacteria without causing harm. There's also the question of solid foods and what's appropriate at what stage. Baby-led weaning, where babies self-feed with soft finger foods, has become a common approach that some parents now choose. Baby-led weaning lets babies self-feed with finger foods from the start, sometimes skipping purees entirely. As a grandparent, it helps to understand both approaches and how to support whichever feeding method the parents have chosen. The overarching principle here is the same as with everything else. Ask what the parents are doing and follow their lead. Don't assume that what worked 30 years ago is still the recommendation today. The way things were done when you were a new parent worked most of the time, and most babies turned out fine. But some babies weren't fine, and that's why the recommendations have changed. Tip 7. Get infant CPR certified. This one is practical, it's empowering, and most first-time grandparents never think to do it. If you're going to be left alone with a baby, even briefly, you should know what to do if that baby chokes or stops breathing. For babies under 1 year and modified techniques for toddlers. You also need to know how to recognize the difference between choking and gagging, and when to call emergency services. These are life-saving skills, and they're essential for any grandparent providing care. CPR for infants is different from adult CPR. The compression depth, the hand placement, the rescue breathing technique, it's all calibrated to a tiny body. Taking a certified course takes a few hours. It can save a life. And there's a secondary effect that's just as valuable. When new parents know that you've been trained, their confidence in leaving the baby with you goes up dramatically. You're not just a loving grandparent, you're a competent one. Beyond CPR, grandparents should also keep the phone number of the baby's health provider close at hand. Know the poison center number, know the location of the nearest pediatric emergency room, and obtain an authorization for medical consent so they can give permission for care if the parents aren't present. Part 4. Boundaries, visits, and not hovering. Tip 8. Call before you visit. Always. It sounds basic. It isn't practiced as often as it should be. Lots of grandparents think they're supposed to drop in and visit. A much better idea is to prove your worth by babysitting, doing dishes, shopping, dog walking, or whatever you can do to really help out. That can be your ticket in to developing a great relationship with your grandchild. But just be sure to ask first. Don't take over the house. You may think you're being helpful by cleaning the kitchen, when your daughter-in-law interprets this as criticism of her housekeeping. The first weeks at home with a newborn are genuinely intense. Sleep deprivation is real. The parents are recovering, physically and emotionally. They're trying to establish feeding rhythms, figure out why the baby is crying, and find 5 minutes to shower. The last thing they need is an unexpected knock at the door from someone who, however lovingly, is now an additional presence in the house that needs to be hosted, entertained, or managed. When you call ahead, you give them the power to say yes or no. And here's the thing. When they say yes, you know it's a genuine yes. You know you're welcome. You know you're helping rather than adding to the chaos. The goal is to balance providing help with respecting their space. Offer assistance when they need it. Babysitting, helping with chores, and be mindful not to overstep. And once you're there, watch for cues. If the baby needs feeding, step back. If the parents need a nap, offer to hold the baby. Babysitting while the new mom is napping. And after all, how many people will new parents trust to babysit a new baby? It's a very short list, and grandparents are usually at the top of it. Tip 9. Don't compete with the other grandparents. Every grandchild may have 2 sets of grandparents, and the temptation to become the favorite is something that almost no new grandparent openly admits, but many quietly feel. Every grandparent wants to be the favorite, but if your grandchild has multiple grandparents, remember that each one brings something to the table. There is no competition. Nothing is worse than a holiday gathering where each grandma tries to outdo the other with a bigger gift. This kind of one-upmanship doesn't go unnoticed. The parents see it. They're exhausted. They're navigating the holidays or birthdays, and now they're managing the egos of 2 sets of grandparents who are locked in an arms race of gifts and attention. It's stressful. It's uncomfortable, and it takes the focus off the child. Grandparents can relieve stress and make life a lot easier on their adult children when they make an effort to get to know the other grandparents, not to compete with them, to coordinate with them, to share calendars, split holiday time thoughtfully, and create a family atmosphere where the grandchild has room to love everyone without being used as a measuring stick for whose affection wins. What you can give your grandchild that doesn't require a bigger price tag. Time, interest, outings that cost little but are enormous fun, love, focused attention, and simple games you regularly participate in. That is what children remember. Not the toy that got lost within a week. The afternoon they spent with their grandparent, fully seen and fully entertained. Tip 10. Follow the parents' rules consistently. Whatever rules the parents have set at home, they need to be followed when you're in charge too. Full stop. The rules your children apply to their kids must be enforced by you too. If the grandkids aren't allowed to watch TV, don't turn on the TV. Bring along small fun toys to entertain and interact if iPads and TV are off limits. For grandparents, flouting mom and dad's rules may seem like innocent fun, but you could be undermining their authority as parents and contributing to future conflict. So think twice before letting the grandkids stay up late again. The fun grandparent who lets them do anything role sounds appealing. In practice, it creates real problems. The child comes home wired from the late night or confused about why the rules are different, depending on who's in charge, or worse, starts to use grandma as leverage against mom. But grandma lets me. That phrase is a relationship hand grenade, thrown right into the middle of the parent-child dynamic you have no business disrupting. Consistency between the home and grandparent care is actually one of the most supportive things you can provide. It says, I respect what you're building. I'm not going to undo it the moment you leave the room. Tip 11. Check before you give big gifts. The generous impulse is one of the most natural things about being a grandparent. You see a toy, you think of your grandchild. You buy it? Simple, right? Not always. Surprises can be great, but it's not always a good idea to surprise your grandchildren with big gifts, either in terms of size or value. Whether it's a puppy or an iPad, big gifts should be given thoughtfully and considerately, which means talking with the parents first. You don't have to give up the element of surprise altogether. Just stick to smaller, less expensive gifts for the surprise moments. Your adult children are trying to raise responsible, measured human beings, not spoiled monsters, and sometimes, especially with your sons, the financial dynamic can create its own awkwardness. A son may feel quietly insecure about his own ability to provide everything his child wants, and a massive gift from grandma can inadvertently underscore that. Beyond the emotional dimension, there are practical reasons to coordinate. A large, complex toy might be developmentally wrong for the child's current age. A pet is a decade-long commitment that the household may not be equipped for. Certain electronics might conflict with the parent screen time rules you've already agreed to honor. If you're tempted to demonstrate love with grand gestures and expensive gifts, put the wallet away. Your grandchild will love spending time with you because you're you, not because you bring them mountains of stuff. Tip 12. Ask about social media before you post. This is a genuinely new challenge, one that didn't exist for previous generations of grandparents and one that creates real current friction in families. Before you post those photos of your grandkids on social media, ask whether mom and dad are comfortable with it. If you haven't had that conversation yet, it's time to have it. Some parents love posting photos of their kids online, while others have concerns about privacy and other issues. You won't know how they feel until you ask. So have that conversation and get on the same page. Those concerns are real and legitimate. Some parents are protective of their child's digital footprint. The idea that a baby can't consent to being publicly visible online. Others have professional reasons. They work in fields where a high personal profile could be problematic. Some have safety concerns about who can see their child's face, location tags, school information. Others are dealing with difficult family situations, custody arrangements, estranged relatives, where a photo publicly tagged with a location creates a genuine risk. You don't have to understand every reason fully. You just have to ask and respect the answer. Keep a beautiful private photo album. Share pictures directly in a family group chat, or use a private photo sharing app where only approved people have access. The technology to share and celebrate without broadcasting to the whole internet exists. Use it, once you know what the parents are comfortable with. Tip 13. Be mindful of your own limits too. Here's a tip that's often overlooked entirely, and it might be the most honest one on this list. The excitement of a new grandchild can lead to grandparents taking on more than is sustainable. Babysitting 3 days a week, being on call for last-minute changes, showing up for every milestone, every doctor's appointment, every small event. While looking after your grandchild can be wonderful, the reality is that being in sole charge of a young child can be really rather exhausting. You may find that babysitting is taking over your life and stopping you from doing other things you enjoy, your hobbies, your social life. The truth is that taking on too much childcare can result in it feeling like a chore, not a pleasure. If you're feeling overwhelmed by babysitting responsibilities, you're well within your rights to have a gentle word with your son or daughter about scaling back. You're carrying responsibilities, not just for your own sake, but for your grandchild's too. A grandparent who is worn down, resentful, and exhausted is not the grandparent anyone wants. Not the parents, not the child. Resentment that's allowed to build quietly poisons a relationship slowly, and when it eventually surfaces, it tends to surface badly. A frank, early conversation about capacity and expectations is far better than months of quietly clenched teeth, followed by an explosion. Set honest expectations. Be clear about what you can do and how often. Balance providing help with respecting their space. Offer assistance. When they need it, be mindful not to overstep and give them the time and space to bond with their child on their own terms. Part 6. The long game. Building something that lasts. Tip 14. Bond early and make it intentional. This is the tip that pulls everything together, the one that tells you what all the previous tips are actually in service of. One of the mistakes new grandparents make is waiting too long to bond with their grandchild. Don't wait to develop your own relationship with them. When your new grandbaby joins the family, don't hesitate to bond with them. The first task of a baby is to learn to trust the adults in their life. And you're now one of the people that baby needs to learn to trust. And what does intentional bonding actually look like? It's not just showing up, it's showing up with presence. It's a mistake to leave your interactions with your grandchild up to chance. Make intentional plans ahead of time. Jot down activities you can do, questions you can ask, games you can play, stories you can tell, and the supplies you might need. That level of preparation tells a child, even one who can't yet speak, "You matter enough for me to have planned this." What matters most is making your time together meaningful, whether sharing old family stories, working on a project together, or just having a quiet moment. Because the payoff of this relationship, when built with care, is enormous. Studies show that grandchildren who have close relationships with their grandparents have better emotional regulation and stronger values. Meanwhile, grandparents who are actively involved with grandchildren report lower rates of depression and greater life satisfaction. Research shows that grandparent involvement during childhood, the amount of contact and emotional closeness, is positively linked to emotional development, cognitive functioning, and social adjustment in early adulthood. The lessons learned from those grandparent-grandchild relationships, especially those related to values and moral development, persist into adulthood. 14 life-changing tips for first-time grandparents. When parents and children clash, and they all do, grandparents often become the safe harbor. Close enough to care deeply, removed enough to offer perspective. Research from Boston College found that close grandparent-grandchild relationships act as a protective factor during family stress, divorce, or other challenges. Grandparents provide stability when everything else feels chaotic. A warm relationship with a grandparent provides emotional stability and a strong sense of identity, positively influencing a child's socialization, emotional development, and even their core values. Children who are close to their grandparents exhibit fewer emotional issues and lower levels of depressive symptoms. Grandparents offer something unique: unconditional love without the burden of day-to-day discipline. And that ultimately is the gift no toy can replicate and no amount of money can buy. When you hold the boundary on sleeping positions, when you wait to be asked before giving advice, when you call before showing up, when you resist the urge to post the photo, or correct the parenting, or overload the birthday table with presents, you're doing all of that in service of this: a relationship that spans decades. A grandchild who, as a teenager, still wants to call you. A child who grows into an adult who draws on the values and stories you pass down, who talks about you the way people talk about someone who shaped them. While so much has changed in the last few decades, there is one thing that hasn't, and that is the love that grandparents offer, and the value of having them as a part of their grandchildren's lives. So get the CPR certification. Follow the sleep rules. Don't post the photo before asking. Let them tell you when they want advice. Show up with intention, with patience, with your whole self, and let your grandchild find a version of you that they will carry with them for the rest of their life.